Poel Island is an island in the Baltic Sea. It builds the natural northern and eastern boundaries of the Bay of Wismar on the German coast. The northern coast of the island is also on the south side of the large gulf known as the Bay of Mecklenburg, which Wismar Bay enters into. Insel Poel thus forms on its northern side the unofficial latitude of the northern boundary of the Wismar Bay. It is close to the cities of Lübeck, Wismar and Schwerin, and is part of the Hamburg metropolitan region. Administratively, it is a municipality in the northwest Mecklenburg district. It consists of Kirchdorf and Erzenhof and the smaller villages of Dimmendorf, Wannischen, Into.Insel, Weitendorf, Hofbrandenhusen, Neuhof, Seedorf, Niendorf, Schwarzebusch, Kaltenhof, Fahrdorf, Malchow, Vorwerk and Gollwitz. It covers an area of 36.02 square kilometers and has 2,873 citizens. Satellite pictures show that most of it is used as farmland. With its good air, clean water, fine beaches and sheltered harbors, it is also a popular recreational area. At Dimmendorf harbor there are a pilot station and facilities for yachts and local fishermen. Kirchdorf has a yachting harbor and a boatyard. Wismar Bay is cited by the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica as the finest harbor on the Baltic. The island's name derives from Pol, the common Slavic word for flat land or field. History. Poel's first inhabitants in historic times were Slavs, belonging to the West Mecklenburgian tribe of the Obotrites. The Slavic ruler and lord of Mecklenburg, Heinrich Bauernai, brought German settlers from the provinces of Dithmarschen and Holstein to the island. In the early 13th century, they began building the church on Poel around 1210. The church was built in 4 or 5 periods and was completed around 1350. The tower is in Romanesque style, and with its 47 meters it is visible from almost all points on the island. The church nave was originally Romanesque in style, was enlarged however around 1300 with a long and high choir, and at the time changed into the Gothic style. The church, which still remains a major sightseeing attraction on the island, contains 2 winged Marian altars from the 15th century, a triumphal cross from around 1450, a rare Danish gravestone from the 13th century, and the model of a Ziesen boat from 1936. Since about 1535 it is a Lutheran church. Besides the weekly divine service, there are also many concerts with classical music in the church during the summer months. In 1614, Duke of Mecklenburg Adolf Friedrich I started the construction of a fortress on the island in the vicinity of the church, making use of the strategically good location. In 1618 it was completed. In June 1620 Gustavus Adolphus II of Sweden visited his cousin Duke Johann Albrecht II here, and in September of that same year his bride-to-be, Princess Maria Eleonora of Brandenburg, visited the island and stayed at the castle on the way to her marriage in Stockholm. She was received by Duke Johann Albrecht II with a festive worship service in the church and a feast that went on for several days. During the 30 Years' War, the Duke had to give up the castle to enemy imperial troops in 1628. General Wallenstein ruled over Mecklenburg for several years. In 1631 Gustav Adolf helped the Dukes of Mecklenburg regain the power, and Johann Albrecht II returned to Poel, finding the castle in a desolate condition. When Mecklenburg signed a truce with Emperor Ferdinand II in 1635, the Swedes invaded the land and took over the castle on Poel. The emperor's troops returned in 1638, drove the Swedes away and burned several villages. After the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, two-thirds of Poel together with Wismar and the municipality of Coast.The were granted to the King of Sweden. The western third of the island remained the property of the Holy Spirit Hospital in Lübeck, which had already had this endowment for several centuries. The Swedes were in possession of the castle on Poel but had no interest in it, since they invested all the money and efforts in making Wismar a major military center on the Baltic Sea. The castle quickly deteriorated and by 1740 there were only ruins left. In the 19th century, the inhabitants of Poel were allowed to use the bricks to build their homes and barns so that the buildings were completely disassembled. Today one still can see the impressive earthen embankments and most of the moats which were constructed between 1614 and 1618 for defense purposes. The castle grounds were formed in a five-pointed star form, and the church with its grounds were enclosed into a similar defense compound in the shape of the tail of a star. In November 1802 the House of Mecklenburg, under the leadership of Duke Friedrich Franz I, came in possession of the property of the Holy Spirit Hospital in Lübeck. The Swedish portion of the island was leased for 99 years by the Duke in 1803. It officially remained in Swedish possession until 1903, when it completely returned to Mecklenburg. Since the 17th century, Poel has been connected to the mainland with dams and bridges. Since 1927, the island has been connected to the mainland by a causeway. In 2003, a sister city treaty was signed with Imaro Municipality, an island in Lake Vänern in Sweden. Nearby Wallfish Island was also fortified.